Well, just when you might have thought we'd gotten enough snow, it's back for the 8th straight day.
Goodness.
Steady snow fell across the inland northwest for most of the day today. Thanks for joining us. First at 4, everyone. I'm Jane McCarthy.
And I'm Tom Sherry. I know I started things off this morning shoveling the driveway, and I thought, okay, and it was kind of crusty from the little bit of freezing rain last night. And then all of a sudden, right around 10:30, it just starts again.
It ruined your work.
It's like, so another 2 inches there. So unofficially on my driveway, about 3 inches of snow total has fallen. Here's a look what it is currently here in Spokane. We're at 31 degrees. You can see the wind is out of the southwest at 11 miles per hour. Barometric pressure, though, is rising, and that's because we're starting to see some drier weather move in. You can see that we've got the snow still occurring across areas of northern Idaho and northeastern Washington. I think for the weekend, we're going to see scattered snow showers on Saturday, and still could be scattered on Sunday across northern Idaho. But again, it will both of these events, I think, will mostly be in northern Idaho. Should get up to 33 on Saturday and 29 on Sunday. So the takeaway from the weekend forecast, I don't think we'll see much snow here locally at all, but we may see a little bit. 6 to 10 day forecast goes like this. We're calling for below average temperatures for next week, February 21st through the 25th. And then when we look at precipitation, above average precipitation expected over the next 6 to 10 days. Again, that's all for next week. I'll have that extended forecast for you in detail coming up in a few minutes.
Thank you, Tom. For the second time this week, a snowplow driver was threatened in our area. In this case, a Post Falls man was charged with assault after he opened the door to a snowplow and started yelling at the driver.
So he admitted to telling the driver that he could be shot for what he did. The man spoke with our Taylor Vito.
The guy at the center of all this tells me, yes, he lost his cool. He's sorry about that, but he doesn't get why he's charged with assault. He says he never laid a finger on anyone. But the situation and the charges are still really serious.
The burn was so tall, I couldn't open my door.
Yesterday morning, Joe Lampe awoke at his Post Falls home to find his truck and a work trailer burned in. The trailer was partially damaged. His neighbor's car was the same. Here's a photo of it. After spending 45 minutes digging out, Lampe started to leave when he spotted a couple of city plows that he thought were responsible.
I lost my temper because I was upset, and I yelled at them, and not using such nice language, I pretty much told them they're a bunch of idiots.
Lampe admits he opened the door to one of the loaders to yell at the driver. In a police report, Lampe admitted to calling them, quote, pieces of blank.
I exchanged words which were not nice, which was definitely my bad. And I did threaten that I ought to beat you, and this is the reason why people get shot.
The plow drivers told police Lampe jumped on the loader, but he denies that. So those plow drivers called the cops contacted Lampe, and the city eventually decided to charge him with assault. Lampe says he's learned his lesson, but doesn't get the charge.
I didn't think that you'd be looking into some type of criminal charges like this for yelling at a guy. I deeply regret that.
Idaho code defines assault as including verbal threats, so there's that. But this case does appear to be pretty straightforward.
And the only harm that I chose to do was to yell at him.
Lampe says he can't afford a lawyer and will now be at the court's mercy when it comes to sentencing.
I'm not a bad guy. I'm not a violent person.
Assault in Idaho is punishable by possible jail time or fines. Outside the Post Falls Police Department, Taylor Vito, KREM 2 News.
Boy, oh boy, with all the snow that we've seen so far this February, experts are urging people to clear the snow from the roofs before it gets too heavy and causes damage.
But it's not just houses you need to be concerned with. People who leave their large boats out during the winter, they should also take precautions. KREM 2's Mark Hanrahan is here with a story we're working on for our 5 o'clock broadcast. Mark?
Yes, good afternoon, guys. Well, take a look at this boat that's partially submerged at Templeton on the Spokane River in Post Falls. There's no official word on what led to this particular situation, but experts say there are a few common things that can lead to this in the winter. First and foremost, the buildup of that snow and ice adds a significant amount of weight and can cause a boat to sink or take on water. Also, like in houses, pipes can freeze and burst. Lines coming into the boat can freeze, and when they thaw out, they can then burst, flooding the inside of the boat and ultimately causing it to take on water or even sink. So our Taylor Vito spoke with an expert who'll have some more tips on how to avoid something like this from happening. That's all coming up new at 5 tonight. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Mark. In other news, a House committee has advanced a measure that would remove a parent's ability to claim a personal or philosophical exemption for their children to opt out of the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine. House Bill 1638 was passed on a 10-5 vote. It now heads to the full House in the coming weeks.
Yeah, the bill was proposed following the measles outbreak that happened here in the Pacific Northwest. More than 50 cases in the region were reported, and spread appears to be slowing now. Public health leaders have not identified any new cases in the Pacific Northwest since last week.
Well, President Donald Trump is declaring a national emergency to get the money he says he needs to build a border wall. Let us know what you think about this. Do you approve of that move? You can head to KREM.com/vote or go to the Vote Now tab on our mobile app and let us know.
President Trump says he will still sign the deal Congress passed, but he's taking executive action to round up around $8 billion from several government sources.
I want to do it faster. I could do the wall over a longer period of time. I didn't need to do this, but I'd rather do it much faster.
The White House says it is expecting and is prepared for legal and congressional challenges to the president's emergency declaration. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she is considering a number of options to fight the declaration. Democrats say they are also considering suing the president to stop him from implementing the national emergency.
Well, with that declaration, the president no longer needs congressional approval to pay for the border wall.
So we've gotten a few questions asking if Congress can do anything about it, so we are verifying. And it turns out, yes, Congress can, but it won't be easy. Under federal law, the House and Senate can pass a joint resolution terminating the emergency, but it would have to be signed by the president to take effect. And as it stands, the president would likely veto that resolution.
Congress could then vote to override the president's veto, but that would take a 2/3 majority in each chamber. So that means several leaders from the president's own party would have to agree to that. So we can verify technically, yes, Congress can repeal a national emergency, but it would take a bipartisan effort in both the House and the Senate to make that happen. Meantime, Congresswoman Cathy McMorris Rodgers issued a statement prior to the president's declaration. She writes in part, "While I share President Trump's concerns about the important need to secure our southern border and his frustrations with Democrats' refusal to keep our country secure, this is not the right approach to achieve our shared goals." She
continued by saying, "I do not support this decision because declaring a national emergency sets a very dangerous precedent that undermines our constitutional separation of powers." McMorris Rodgers said the president's decision could also open doors for future presidents to act alone without congressional approval.
Senator Maria Cantwell, meantime, released a statement saying she also disagrees with the president's decision. She says, quote, "The president is trying to make an end run around Congress. We have a separation of powers and checks and balances that must be maintained," unquote. Cantwell is also co-sponsor of legislation that would prevent the president from redirecting military construction funds to build a border wall during the national emergency declaration. So how does a national emergency work, and where does that money come from? The National Emergency Declaration frees up $8 billion, far more than the $5.7 billion the president initially wanted. $3.6 billion of that comes from military construction money. This money is used for military bases and other projects. President George W. Bush used this same account for money after he declared a national emergency. That was following the 2001 terrorist attacks.
And $600 million are set to come from asset forfeiture funds at the Department of Treasury. The White House also believes it can draw about $2.5 billion from the Department of Defense for drug interdiction cases. And this is all in addition to the $1.3 billion that Congress approved earlier this week to avoid another government shutdown.
And right now, we'd asked you, do you approve of the president's emergency declaration? 51% right now saying yes, 49% no.
It's a pretty split right there.
Yeah.